Hi, you have tuned in to Health Coach Impact. This is the show that spotlights health coaches from all areas of life and niches, just from all different places and professions within the profession of health coaching. So today we are spotlighting Courtney Shober. And Courtney is a newer health coach, but she has made such an impact on her community. So I wanted to bring her on. I'm really, really excited to be able to give Courtney this opportunity to share with what she has going on, why she got into health coaching. And so let's just jump into it, Courtney. Thank you for being here with us. And so let's tell our audience, wherever they're coming from, where you're from, what got you into health coaching, kind of a little bit about your history.
Sure. Well, thanks, first of all, for having me, Michelle. I really appreciate the opportunity to be on the show and kind of spread the word about what health coaching can be. So as you said, my name is Courtney Shober. I am originally from Berks County, Pennsylvania, Reading specifically, which is where I am back now. It was a bit of a journey to get where I am, as it tends to be. I actually was in the music industry for about a decade. That's what I went to school for, music business. And then I was doing that for about a decade. And, as things happen, I got laid off. The company I was at, my department kind of wasn't needed anymore. And I decided in that interim time of being unemployed and searching for a job in the music industry, half the time was searching for staying in that industry. But I was also doing a lot of reflecting and figuring out what I really wanted to do, because I had learned a lot and I was unhappy at my position. So I had already kind of been thinking about things, and the gears were turning a bit. So I spent a lot of time doing some informational interviews with people that were in the health industry. I also really I love cooking. My dad, when I was growing up, was a caterer and owned 2 seafood businesses in the area here in Reading. And, so I was always brought up appreciating food and good quality food. And then as I went out on my own, even with crazy hours and being stressed out, I tried my best to try to eat healthy. So I really developed some cooking skills, just on top of kind of the osmosis I got from being around it as a kid.
Right.
Always loved being really adventurous in the kitchen. And even at my job before it ended, a lot of my coworkers were always rubbernecking at my food, kind of being like, "Oh, Courtney, what do you have today?" So they were always like impressed by they're like, "You made that?" And I'm like, yeah. So I always enjoyed that. And one day, one of the CEOs at our partner company that was shared a building with us, she had a couple times before joked about, "Hey, I'd pay you to make this food for me." And one day she was like, "No, seriously, I would." So we talked about it, but it wasn't really feasible logistic wise, but it kind of gave me some confidence and made me think a little bit. So that was kind of in my mind as I was searching for what to do next, along with these other informational interviews. I talked to a hospice nurse. I talked to a dietitian. I talked to a couple of my lecturers from the Institute of Integrative Nutrition.
Wow.
And so it was, I loved to reach out to people and hear their own stories and why they were where they were at, and what inspired them. And it was really inspiring to me and kept my positive, kept a good attitude when I was interacting with these people, because a lot of them were so passionate about what they did. Another thing I did was kind of join into some meetup.com groups that were that had to do with health and wellness within my area, and decided to go to this one And it was actually, the woman had worked at Merck Pharmaceuticals for over a decade and a half, and one day just decided, and she kind of asked herself, why am I creating these drugs for people that are covering up just aiding their symptoms and not going to the root cause? Because she had a bioengineering degree and she knew a lot about different medical topics, and she's like, I have this knowledge. Why am I doing this? Like, I should be helping people find what's wrong and really curing them instead of just giving them prescriptions. And she happened to have, she went out on her own and started doing workshops and seeing clients one-on-one. And the specific one I was at, she had a little, I believe, I'm trying to think of the topic. I think it might have been something about the microbiome. And then attached to that was she had a practitioner come in to do a Reiki session, like a little demo session, which I was like, that's interesting. I hadn't really known about it. I'd heard about it, but didn't really know. So I'm always open to finding out about new pathways to healing. So it was interesting. So after that that session, I talked to this woman, the one that was at Merck, and I kind of explained the story I just told you, and she's like, oh, you want to be a health coach? And I was like, well, okay, I've never heard those two words together, but tell me more, I'm listening. And she had just completed her training at IIN and told me about the school, and I was like, that sounds fantastic. That sounds like very much in line with a lot of my values and philosophy around health and wellness. So I was registered by the end of that week, I think. So it was one of the best decisions I've made. And it's such a wonderful community. I met so many amazing people. It's kind of just like this, you learn so much. And I was really happy also to being kind of a learning nerd. I was like so excited to be back in school and taking notes and taking tests, and I loved it. And I did get a full-time job in the city, in the music industry at this really great company. But I was going to school at IIN, and so it was this really interesting transition. And I, on my commute from Jersey to New York City, that's when I did a lot of my work. And obviously even more when I got home, because I really ended up going a lot deeper a lot of times, just because I loved the topics of discussion and everything from all the sciencey stuff that I was nerding out, like microbiome and neuroplasticity and epigenetics and all these wonderful things that I really hadn't heard about before. And a lot of the psychological stuff, which even to this day, I really lean into that. The mindset is really one of the hugest aspects. So then we were in Jersey, and we had been there for that whole 10 years during the music industry and the start of this whole transition. And my husband and I kind of had decided we wanted to move back home to Reading, PA, to Berks County, which is about an hour from Philly. It's southeastern Pennsylvania. And a whole year went by. I received my certification. I had done, by the time I graduated, I had done above and beyond my 6 that I needed to graduate. I think I was around 32 health histories. So I had talked to that many, and because I loved it so much, and I was so lucky to be in New York City, where I could just stay after work and, meet up with fellow IINers. A lot of my health histories were fellow students. And my first paying client was someone at my music industry job. So that whole team was very supportive of me the whole time, even though I was a temp for a year and a half. I had one foot out the door. Not, I still loved working there and gave them my all, but they knew that I had other aspirations and were really supportive of me. So I'm very lucky that I had kind of that transition was not necessarily a really hard one. It felt right the whole time. Really, ever since I made that decision to educate myself and become a health coach, every decision became a lot easier. So then we ended up eventually, my husband, who's a teacher, did get a position here in Reading. We were kind of hinging on that because I was starting a new career. I didn't have a job lined up yet specifically. I had done some research to start, hit the ground running when I got back here so I could contact and meet up with a lot of people that were already in the health and wellness fields in this area. And it's not typically an area that's known for its good health. So I always, in the back of my mind, was like, are there going to be people that want this service? And the more and more I talk to people, the more and more I realize there are people that are craving it here. It's been an interesting progression. We moved home. I started meeting with people. I ended up getting, my second cousin has a organic farm about 35 minutes from Reading, west of here, in Bethel, PA. And so I started helping out there a couple days a week, which I loved. Farming is in my blood. It's in my family. Not in my generation before me, but a few generations before that. So I really loved that grounding and getting my hands dirty and growing things. It's a produce farm. Organic produce farm. So through that, my cousin posted on Facebook. I was cleaning. They grow ginger and turmeric there in their high houses, and they do really great with social media. Oaknut Farm is the name of the farm, and so Jennifer, she kind of gave me a shout out because I had been cleaning the ginger and turmeric, and she said it was looking as beautiful as ever, because I actually got some time to clean it. That was usually one of the jobs that was saved till the end of the night that her husband would do with like a headlamp outside. So it always looked beautiful, but it was just extra gleamy and jewel-like. So she called me out, and then someone saw that and connected with me, and it ended up being one of my jobs that I do now, which is at a local organic cafe called the Farmhouse Kitchen. Mm-hmm. And they do farm to table, all organic, really wonderful food. But the owner, Marty, she had no background in restaurateuring. She actually worked with horses. She was in the equestrian business. And but she was very passionate about raising awareness and education about good quality food and how that's directly connected to your health. Which is, it still boggles my mind that people don't make that connection, but a lot of people really don't. We're around people that do make that connection all the time, so it's kind of, it's hard to imagine this whole big portion of the population that doesn't even think about it on a daily basis or ever.
Yeah, when we're engrossed in what we do, because what we do as health coaches, that's our world, and sometimes it's hard to see outside of that world.
It is, and we have to remind ourselves, well, not everyone thinks the way we do or has the same belief system or has ever even heard of this concept before, which to me it's so intrinsic, as humans, like, how can you not make that connection? But some people don't. So that's part of our job, is to gently remind people to make that connection. So I've really loved working at Farmhouse. My role there is the education coordinator. So we started having evening events there. They're open for breakfast and lunch. So the cafe was open in the evenings. And I was facilitating, and still am, educational events, awareness events, just based on healthy lifestyle, clean living. I realized very quickly that I wouldn't be able to cover all the content of the topics that I wanted to talk about on my own, because though I learned a lot, through IIN and through my own research, I couldn't go as deep as I wanted to, and really feel confident of giving really good quality experiential information to the people that were coming to these events. Mm-hmm. So I was like, wait, I'm talking to all these great people in my, informational interviews. Maybe they'd be willing to come in and talk. So I started doing panel style discussions and bringing in 3 to 4 people, kind of talking about an overarching topic. and it went really well. Like, the reception was great. The space that we have there is very small. It's cozy. It lends itself well to people sharing, and it's really like a safe space. So there was just this unexpected, people really sharing their stories and asking really great questions, and even, volunteering information of things that had helped them in the past. And not just my panelists, but the people that were coming to these events. So it's been a really great experience. I've learned so much from my panelists and from the participants that were coming to these events. And stemming from the classroom, a lot of things kept popping up where there were people that have lived here in Berks County for essentially their whole life, and maybe they've only recently become interested in a healthier lifestyle, but some of them have been doing it for decades. And my panelists, or even other participants, would mention different places in the greater Reading area in the county that they were utilizing, whether it be a health food store or a specific practitioner, maybe an acupuncturist they'd gone to, or an integrative massage therapist, or a really wonderful, because there's actually, when people think of Pennsylvania, I think they think of Lancaster County and the Amish community as like the farming community, but Berks County, we hold our own with the amount of agriculture that we have in this area in Pennsylvania and in the whole state as a whole. And I've really been interested to get into that area too and learn a lot more about that and connect with people that work in that area, which led me to now I'm starting my second season as the manager of the Penn Street Market, which is the downtown Reading Farmers Market, which has also been a wonderful experience.
That's amazing.
It's been great. I was just doing some planning for it this morning. Got to get all the paperwork into the city, and it's interesting because it's two very different communities. Like it's the stereotypical other side of the bridge kind of situation, but I love being part of both of those communities, and I'm trying to work with both sides to figure out how we can all work together and how it can get better for all of us in relation to just living a healthier, more vital lifestyle. So the market's been wonderful, and then kind of got off track with the Farmhouse classroom and these gaps, and people kind of having all these resources locally but not having a place to access them or see them all in one place or compare them, or so we had a group that we just started a discussion. It was some regulars at the cafe, it was some of our previous panelists, and we started having meetings every month to just talk about this and how we could fill this gap, and that started probably back last April or so. So it's coming up on about a year. Started as a conversation, and as of now, in November, we had officially been approved by a fiscal sponsor. And we have a website, and we are working on a directory of all these wonderful resources, as well as it being a business-to-business resource, kind of like a chamber of commerce, but specifically for health and wellness and healthy lifestyle related business entities and practitioners. We're not, we're adhering to a certain set of values and a philosophy. The name of the group is called Downtown Wellness Berks. So we're in our baby stages now, but we are connected to our fiscal sponsor, Humanitarian Social Innovations, which is out of Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, which is near Allentown, so not too far away. And they've been wonderful helping us get this started. Even going through the application process really helped us hone in and focus on what our values were and how we are going to communicate what this group is and what we'd love it to be and our goals. And it's so exciting because it has so much potential. So we've been having a lot of meetings with the different categories of health. We kind of have it as eat well, move well, heal well, live well, and shop well. So all these different categories. And we've been meeting with farmers and food producers and gyms and yoga studios in the area, restaurants and other cafes. There's a pretty short list in Berks County that are up to the standards as far as organic, non-GMO, local, supporting our local farmers. So it's been an interesting journey to figure out, okay, who's in and who's out, because we want to be inclusive, but at the same time, it's important for us to hold up to this certain standard of, being involved in the community, of transparency and integrity, so that people know that if there's an entity or a business or a practitioner that we feature, they can trust that they're going to be taken care of, and that it could be potentially a really great avenue for them to take to another piece of their integrative health puzzle, or another tool in their wellness tool belt, as I like to say sometimes. So yeah, it's been a really fun journey. I've also had a handful of one-on-one clients, and I just finished my first 6-week group program called Evolve, which was really fun. We had a small group my first time. It was kind of like my guinea pig group. But we talked a lot about some great things, like a lot of people always want to focus on food, which is great because I love talking about that. But like I said earlier, I really think that the mindset is kind of the number one thing, because if that's not there, nothing else is going to fall in line.
Right.
So we talk a lot about that, about values. In my opinion, if you don't really know what's important to you, then how are you going to choose to spend your time and energy? So we talk a lot about, okay, what do you care about? What do you want to spend your time and energy on? What are you spending your time and energy on now? What does that look like? And how can you make some tweaks to move towards some of your goals? Whether that be losing a couple of pounds or just being a little more Zen version of yourself. People have a lot of goals, and sometimes it's hard for them to communicate them, or they don't even take the time to think about them or express them to themselves, let alone someone else. So I think it's a good exercise. That's kind of what this group program was designed for, is to give space and time to prioritize yourself and figure those things out for yourself. It was kind of a mirror of the journey that I took myself. So it's been really fun, and I hope to do it again soon. I think, did I talk about all my jobs? I think I did. I'm not used to just talking this much, but
that's okay. I mean, I think our listening audience and our viewing audience is really, really enjoying this. I know I am. I think the thing that is really standing out to me is how you embraced what your passions were, and you were willing to let go of something else to step into something else. And you have a very unique situation where you didn't have like a health crisis that pushed you into doing, being a health coach or anything like that, but it was a natural evolution to your journey, your just life journey. And you've really embraced all that. You've actually taken it a step at a time and allowed situations to be able to be revealed to you, and then taking advantage of those situations, instead of a lot of health coaches doubt should I do this? Should I do that? I need to get this, I need to do that. It seems like you've actually taken this whole journey and just kind of flowed with it, and people have come to you and situations have come to you, and you've embraced them as they come. And I think that's a really, really key point. It's key, because it's when we struggle against things and start doubting, that's when things start to fall apart. But you've really taken all your journey as a very flowing process, and look at where you've come. Look at all the different people that you've touched, and the networks that you've made just gradually and in this flow of a process.
Yeah, and no, that's right. And when it first started happening, and kind of I explained as soon as I made this decision, and before in my past life in the music industry, there were times when things were going okay, but it was always, there was something in my gut that was like, something's off. Like I had so much ambition, but I didn't necessarily know where to point it. Kind of like that hamster wheel metaphor where I was just kind of going day to day. I was kind of, like if you see my resume, like, on paper, it looks really good. It's like all those things that you're expected to do. Like, you start part-time, then you go full-time, then you get, more responsibilities, then you're a manager, then, but I really always felt like I wanted to be helping people, and I didn't know how that was going to be. And you're right. As soon as I feel like as soon as I was going back to school and had something I was really excited about and passionate about, it's like you're swimming against the current, and all the time you realize you can just turn around and like swim with the current, and it makes life so much easier. And when I first moved home and talking to people, and things just came really fast, and there was a point where it was almost like kind of scary because it was overwhelming, where all these things, and it was almost like too many opportunities and too many things, and meeting so many wonderful people. And hey, do you know this person? I had this ongoing list of people. I still have it somewhere. I feel like it's more mental now, but I do have like an Excel sheet somewhere with all these people that I'm supposed to talk to and connect to, and I probably have checked off quite a bit of them. Just because I learned quickly, Berks County is pretty small, which can be great. But I still find times where I meet someone new and I hear what they're into and what they're passionate about, and say, oh, do you know so-and-so? And they'll be like, no, I never heard of them. I'm like, they're 2 miles from here. How have you guys need to get your brains in the same room. Right. So I've really enjoyed that facilitation of helping people connect. I think that's honestly, when I was living in Jersey, that's something I realize now that was this gaping hole in my life, which was a community. And now I have that, and it makes me so happy, because it does. You meet all these people, and they energize you, and they inspire you. They give you ideas. Like, I love being able to toss ideas around with people and brainstorm with these people, because I couldn't have done any of this without that. A lot of the things that I got involved with was through connections and meeting with people and talking about getting things done and how are we going to do it, and connecting other people to make things happen and make things move forward. And it's when you surround yourself like that, and I think that's part of the hard part, that a lot of health coaches like run into that wall where they think I'm an entrepreneur now, I have to do everything on my own. And that's not the case. You're going to just dig yourself into a hole in some cases. I mean, some people can do it, and some people are really great at it, at being like 100% independent. But I think you talk to any successful entrepreneur or someone that started their own business, it's not an island. You're not one person.
There's no way that one person can do it all. And you can't spread the message just by yourself. And that's
right.
That health coaches tend to get into this bubble. And I've talked about this before, but you get into this bubble and you get behind your computer, and it's this lonely space. And that's not what health coaching is.
No.
You're creating this amazing network of people, whether it's online or offline. But I think what you have really, really keyed into, Courtney, is that doing it on the in your community, in the space that you're in, that is made more of a powerful influence, because you're right there, and you're connecting with people right there in your own community. You can meet with them face to face, and there's something magical that happens when you are in the same physical space together.
It is. You're absolutely right. And I know there's a lot of health coaches that or maybe it's a comfort level thing. I don't know. I mean, I've always been like, I always have to get over that initial hump, but I'm a pretty outgoing person. And it's just, I always talk about to my clients and when I'm doing talks and things like that, where we just need to trust our guts more. And when you, even if you're like at the grocery store or just out walking on the street and like coming, at a corner or stop next to someone, like, if you have an urge to say hi, just say hi. Like, don't, if you have that initial, like, oh, that social awkwardness thing that everyone has, like, we forget everyone has that in some way, shape, or form. So I always try to encourage people, whether you're not engaged yet or you're engaged in a conversation or just have eye contact with someone on the street, that if you have a gut reaction to connect with them, then you should do it.
Right. And it's a
people
cultural
crave
thing
it.
also.
It is. It's true.
It's a cultural thing, because I remember when I lived up in Seattle, it was like you just straight, you don't talk to anybody and all that. And then I moved down to Dallas, and everyone, I mean, you're just standing in the grocery store line or, wherever, and people are talking to each other and just chit-chatting and such. And it's a cultural thing. And but there are places where you can do that. I mean, if you're in a health food store and you feel comfortable in that position, or, just being that genuine human being to someone else, you can start making those connections too. And even getting out of your own comfort zone and going to a networking meeting or going to, different things, or creating a meetup is another thing that, people can do as health coaches. You can create your own space, just like you've created your own space, even though it's come organically to you.
Yeah, very organically.
You've intrinsically have created your own space in a very short amount of time.
Yeah, it's been wonderful. And like you said, like it just kind of unfolded. And both the Downtown Wellness Berks, now my official title is program chair. So I'm essentially a program chair of an organization running as a nonprofit. I never asked for that. I know I'm also, a lot of this has been very much a big learning curve, which is, for me, is exciting. I know for some people it's terrifying, but it's kind of like, it's a lot easier to embrace it. And, we would talk about as health coaches, I know a big topic we talk about is, our perspective on failure and what that looks like to us. Mm-hmm. It's a learning process, and I feel like we're so hard on ourselves. So it's kind of like, okay, well, that didn't work clearly, so let's try the next thing. Mm-hmm. So it's really, and I love that just strategic problem solving, and okay, how can I make this work? So that I've had a lot of opportunity to do that with all of these projects, and even the market manager position. I didn't actively seek that out. I was involved with a couple of food policy groups in the area, and went to one of the educational committee meetings, a couple of them over a few months, and someone just threw my name in the hat. And the Chamber Alliance, who oversees the market, reached out to me, and I was like, sure, that sounds like fun, let's do it. So it all just kind of, most of it just comes. I mean, you still have to be proactive, obviously, but just kind of be open and more aware of the opportunities and some of the messages that are coming from out there, whether they be directly from people or like that list I was telling you about. I would have that running, and I would, schedule some appointments, and then I would talk to someone, and they'd give me 4 other names of, have you talked to this person yet? Have you met this person? They're really into this. That's like, I think you guys would really get along. And a lot of times I would just I think intuition is a big muscle that I've been able to flex a lot more since I decided to change careers. Mm-hmm. Because of that whole turning around and flowing with the stream thing, it's listening to your gut, and you're just more aware, period, of things. Like, you're more conscious of interactions with people. And so I would hear these names, and then all of a sudden in this period of a week or two, I hear the same name like 3 times, and I'm like, okay, I guess I should probably call this person and sit down with them and have a chat.
Right.
So it's it's not always that obvious, but I feel like the more you listen to those types of things, the more they're easier to recognize.
Right.
So and that it's been fun, and it's fun when it happens. You have to like smile to yourself, and like in the beginning, like every day there was things that were like giving me chills. It was crazy. It was kind of scary. It was like, this is bizarre. Like people would, I would meet people and have conversations where I would like just 20 minutes before I would have had the same conversation, but with someone else where they mentioned the same topic, and it was just weird. It was bizarre. So I'm like, okay, it's all these signs that are telling you you're in the right place. Right. That like the owner of the Farmhouse kitchen always says, she explains it as she gets sent angels. So people that come in and have interactions with her and those connections. So however you look at it, it is, I think that those connections, those human connections are so important.
Right. Exactly. And being open to that, and actually taking the initial efforts to connect with those people. Because a lot of times as health coaches, we'll meet up with people and be given referrals, and then we don't do anything with those referrals. And then they sit there, and then it gets old, and then it's pretty much died out. So taking that initial effort and actually jumping on the phone, connecting with them, either emailing them, or sending them some kind of message, talking to them, getting that connection established in some way is really important. And timing is important, because it's a matter of flowing with it instead of doubting and struggling. And I think that's a lot, as because when I started doing my own health coaching after I came out of corporate health coaching, that was one thing that I struggled with was, okay, I've gotten these different people. Who do I connect with first? Or do I even do anything? And then, you get all these different thoughts in your head, and pretty soon time has gone by. But as I started just connecting with people and letting it flow, just like you have done, it does. It just all tends to come together. But what I love about what you've established in your kind of your habit and your pattern, I don't think you even realize it, is you've allowed these connections to come in, and you've cultivated them, you've nurtured them, and it's grown into different things and you're not putting any kind of expectation on things. You're allowing it to grow the way that it's meant to grow.
No, you're true. And people like Marty again tells me that all the time, it's that, and it takes time. Like I wasn't always like this. I was super uptight and super anxious at my other job. Like this has been a true transformation for me. I mean, I don't know how obvious it is to like the people around me that I love. I don't really ask about it. I should probably. I know that I'm just a calmer version of myself. And when you can turn down, when you're able to, or have the opportunity to, or can work on turning down that noise in your own head, I think that's the key. Like that's that mindset, the mental aspect, trying your best and your hardest to be kind to yourself and try to turn down the volume of that voice in your head of self-doubt. I mean, it's another key aspect of health coaching. A lot of people deep down sometimes don't even feel like they're worth taking care of themselves, which is really unfortunate. There's a lot of mental illness, whether diagnosed or not. There's a lot of self-doubt that's deep-seated from past trauma, just how we live our daily lives. All these things we're being bombarded by every day, whether it be, the people that are around us that might be toxic, or the toxic things we're putting on our bodies. It's a combination. It's never just one thing. But when you start opening up and paying attention to these things, your whole lifestyle, everything that you consume, whether that be food or relationships or the TV shows you watch, like it's the combination of everything. So it's just about paying attention. And when you start paying attention, you can notice things and where you can tweak things. And really for me, I feel like finally, like this is what I was always struggling, like, oh, what am I supposed to do? And yeah, it's more about just following the things that interest you and that light you up. That's all you have to do. Like it honestly, yeah, it's pretty much that simple. And just realizing the things that do bring you that energy, that spark, and realizing the things that kind of drain you. So it's all about that awareness and just leaning away from those things that are toxic to you in some way, whatever way that may be, whether that's you eat something and your stomach doesn't like it, or you have, you spend some time with a person and you're like, that was exhausting. So it's just paying attention to all those aspects of your well-being, to see how you can do a little bit better, and not beat yourself up if you fall back into some of your bad patterns or bad habits. It's creating those new patterns and habits in a way that's sustainable, but not being hard on yourself when you have a bad day, because we all do.
Right.
So
I apologize, I'm having some audio quality here. But anyways, what you're saying is really what we're taught also. And you've put it into a beautiful flow and a beautiful practice for your own business and for your life, really, because health coaching for us is a lifestyle. It's the way, hang on a second, I'm sorry. It's what we're passionate about when we go into health coaching. It is a passion, and it does become part of our lifestyle. It does become part of who we are. And I think you've taken it to that level, and you've allowed it to be at that level that is allowing all of those amazing things to come into your life, because you're taking it as it comes. You're not struggling with all of this, and you're leading into every aspect of what you're doing with faith. And it's a matter of having the faith and not being in a place of fear.
No, that's a really great point. It's true. And I do. I like the way you put that, leaning into it. And you talked earlier about even going into meetings with people or things, like I try not to have set expectations about the way things will go. I mean, you could still have goals and aspirations, but they're really just a framework. And I used to be and I still love planning. I mean, essentially most of my jobs, I'm a professional event planner. That's not when it's not my health coaching, but even that, it's like, you're planning a 6-week, it's an event. You're planning. I love planning, but I'm not as crazy uptight about it as I used to be. Mm-hmm. It's more like go with the flow, follow your intuition, like have the framework ready, like don't be unprepared. But if something doesn't go the way that you thought it might, and that's the thing, when we have these set expectations in our head and it doesn't go that way, then we're like, oh, I did something wrong. So having that, like, kind of not having those expectations is so freeing. But like I said, it doesn't mean you don't have goals. It just means you're not disappointed as much, that's for sure. Because if you think, oh, it has to go exactly this way, you're going to always be disappointed if that's kind of your mindset.
Right, exactly.
You can have
things to come in.
Exactly. And it's that openness, right? Because sometimes the way you think it should happen, it could be so much better if you're open to some of those other things that pop up unexpectedly. And those are honestly those moments, those like awe-inspiring moments where you're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that just happened. I never would have thought, or like the way that was planned out. If you plan things, there's no room for those moments sometimes, because you're so, set on keep staying on track. And I really think it is a mindfulness thing. If you're so worried about it going wrong, or like just thinking about how something didn't go exactly the way you planned, you're not in the present. You're not in the moment thinking about, or like just seeing what's going on and taking in what's going on right now. Even just if you think about a health coaching session, it's the same way. It's kind of the methods we were taught, but taking that outside of the health coaching session, I use yoga as a metaphor a lot. I practice yoga at home a lot myself, and I love it. And that actually has been one of the big pieces of helping teach me mindfulness and, awareness, body awareness and mental awareness of just being aware and being calm and breathing. And, it's just like you can take yoga from on the mat to off the mat. You can take those skills that you learn as a health coach and take them into your life. We always talk about that. Like, it's really, I've tried really hard to walk my talk when it comes to that. And it's a whole lifestyle. And it's a process. It takes time, and you have to stay diligent about it and always keep that awareness open. And, I even find myself, especially, juggling a lot of these different things, even though they fit together really nicely, a lot of the things that I'm working on and doing, I have to think about every day, okay, what am I prioritizing today? What's the most important thing today? And sometimes wrenches just get thrown, mm-hmm. And you got to just go with the flow. And if everything that's on your checklist today doesn't get done, it's okay. And I think that's something that a lot of health coaches struggle with, especially, being on your own. Like, you want to say, okay, what did I accomplish today? There are some days when I'm like, I feel like I worked all day and I'm like, what did I get done? So that happens, and it's fine. It's, and it's always like, oh, that kind of stink, but tomorrow will be better. And, maybe there was a reason, maybe that I needed a rest today. And that's the thing too, like when you're so busy, even if you love what you're doing, it can still take a lot out of you. So you have to check in with yourself and see how you're doing to make sure you're not going to deplete your energy so that you can't keep helping other people.
Exactly. And I think sometimes as health coaches, we need a health coach. To remind us of that. And it's not a bad thing. It really is, having someone else to be accountable to and having those accountability partners is really, really important, especially as an entrepreneur and a health coach, and having that team of people that can back you up, and having a community like you do. You have that team of people also that you can talk with and really, get all these things laid out on the table that maybe you may be struggling with something, just like you would do with your own client, right? Yep. As a health coaching client. So, yep. And I think we tend not to take our own medicine, quote. And it's, but when we do, we can see how our practice and where we're supposed to be taking our message and how it's supposed to be getting out there. So I love how you've gone into your community. You're not so much online, because we actually connected on LinkedIn.
We did, yeah.
And it was, it's like I've been connecting with a lot of different health coaches on LinkedIn and on Facebook and such, but hearing everyone's unique stories and where they're coming from, there are a lot of health coaches out there that are not online, and they're doing amazing things just like you are. I mean, you are making such an impact in the community that you are in, and that is what it's all about, because we want to impact our communities in one way or another. And you've taken it to this level where you have really impacted this community of people, and you're bringing other people in with you. And I think that's the dream, right?
Thank you. Yeah, no, it is. I mean, I've been enjoying the ride so much, and it's been great. I mean, all the people I've met and the things that we've accomplished together, it's such a great feeling. It gets emotional sometimes. I get emotional sometimes about it, because when I like I said, even when I moved, I didn't have any set expectations. I was kind of just like, well, I'm going to just talk to a lot of people and see what they know and see maybe where I can help fill a gap. Mm-hmm. And I like that I can hopefully be an example to other health coaches that when you get your certificate and you think, oh, I'm just going to have like 40 clients and just be doing one-on-ones or doing online events or, full time. I really love this like gigging thing, and it kind of keeps you open. Not only is it like multiple forms of revenue that in case something happens, like you have like some diversification, but it's like all these different groups of people. And even though a lot of them have similar mind, it's still like a little different take, a little different perspective on things. So I've really enjoyed that a lot. And You're right. There is a lot of mirroring that goes on when I talk to people on a day-to-day basis. Like onboarding everyone for Downtown Wellness Berks has been so great. I'm meeting all these wonderful people, and they're talking about their businesses and why they're doing what they do and how they want to help the community. It's really inspiring. So it's also kind of the thing where if you just talk about these things, you'll realize how many more people are also interested in the same things and want to make a difference as well. So the more people, and that's my mindset. It's like, well, bring everybody to the party and we'll see what we can do here. So, and it's been fun, and it's hard to not go all the time. You know, I'm like, how many networking groups are there that I can get involved with? And I'm like, but dial it down a little bit. Like, so you kind of have to, there's this weighing of mutual benefits that happens that I try to do, but I try not to be too strict about it. Like I said, I try to use my intuition and my gut as much as possible, and not get too overwhelmed. And I have to say, okay, when it goes from like excitement and like teetering over into stress, I have to be like, okay, let's reevaluate. But it has been so much fun, and I hope the momentum keeps up, but doesn't spin out of control. So far, so good.
Yeah.
But it has been so great, and I've met so many wonderful people, and know I'll meet even more in this process. And it's such a great accountability system, because the more people you connect with, and it's a totally different feeling than when you're in an office and you have like accountability to, you know, a supervisor or a boss, because I still do have a couple bosses, but the way that we work together is completely different than what I was used to, like in the corporate setting.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really nice. Because we're all working towards a goal, and that's really important to me. Like, I've always been team oriented like that, and now my team is like huge.
Right. Right. Well, I really, really enjoyed hearing how you've taken what you've learned at IIN and morphed it into this community effort, and are still utilizing everything that we've been taught, you know, at the Institute for Integrative Nutrition, but you've brought it into this other living being, and have really, you know, incorporated it in your own life and allowed things to flow into your life. I think this is a really good example and message to other health coaches that may feel like they're struggling. If you feel like you're struggling, really evaluate where you're at. Think of it as being your own health coach.
Exactly.
Do what we are taught to do. Step back and say, okay, well, where can I reach out? Where can I be the most, you know, where can I reach out to someone else? How can I help them? How can I empower their lives? What is it that, and that's what we're taught as health coaches in the beginning. So, and I think that's what this whole interview show is about too, is empowering other health coaches, bringing your stories to the table, and knowing that there's so many different ways to be a health coach. Absolutely. So many different ways to impact your community, both online and offline. So offline is an amazing it's an amazing garden that we can cultivate, and it's just sitting there. It's right there in your backyard. Who knows where everything else is going to take you. So, but Courtney, I wanted to say thank you again for being on the show. I just love your story, and I love how you've taken this to a whole new level, to the point where you're impacting your community, you're part of a community, and it's feeding your soul. And that's, in the end, that's exactly where we want to be.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me and giving me the opportunity to share, to talk about it. It's kind of fun to reflect on it sometimes, and it's exciting to see how far everything's kind of progressed in, 2 years. It's crazy.
It's only been 2 years. It's only been 2 years. So
Yeah.
think of where it's going to be in the next 10 years.
I know, it's great. So I'm excited.
Yes, yes. And if our listening or viewing audience wants to get a hold of you, how can they get a hold of you if they're, wanting to ask you questions and things like that?
Sure. Yeah, I'm open to talking to anybody further if you have any questions. Probably the best way is email. My email address is CoachCourtney at Courtney Shober. It's SHOB as in boy, ER.com. I also, CourtneyShober.com is my website, so you can reach me there. I also have a Facebook page and an Instagram feed where you can see all my kitchen creations if you want to do that. It's _health_Herald, like the newspaper Herald, or Hark the Herald Angels sing, on Instagram. And I think on Facebook, it's also the health. If you put in Courtney Shober, it should pop up. And
we'll have all the information in our show notes.
Sure.
Also. So we'll make sure that we put all of that on there so people can there. But I wanted people to be able to hear. Exactly.
No, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah. So do you have any workshops or anything coming up that
Well, we're picking up the Farmhouse classroom, which are the class events that are coming, but they're here in Reading. But if you're in the Reading area and you hear this, I mean, even if you're like an hour or so away, we'd love to have you. We're doing I'm not leading it, but a wonderful naturopath, Henrietta Alban, in the area, who's also part of this community and wonderful, is going to do a microbiome 101 class with the option for some deeper classes later in the next following weeks. And that's going to be Tuesday, March 12th. Is that the Tuesday? Whatever the Tuesday of that week is. I don't have the calendar in front of me. I think it's the 12th. At 6:30, a Farmhouse Kitchen in West Reading. So that's the next kind of event coming up. And I'm hoping to do another Evolve program in spring, hopefully. So planning on that.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Thank you again, Courtney. And to our listening and viewing audience from whichever platform you're coming on, please subscribe. If you're on iTunes, subscribe. If you're catching us at Health Coach Impact on YouTube, please subscribe. You're going to be hearing a lot of other amazing health coaches just like Courtney. And if you're coming to us from Facebook, at Health Coach Impact on Facebook, that's our fan page. You can reach us there, or you can reach me, Michelle Landry, on Facebook. You can also get me on LinkedIn at Michelle Landry. I'm on LinkedIn also. So I want to thank you again for tuning in, and be sure to subscribe and wait and hear some from other amazing health coaches. We'll see you all soon. Thanks. Bye-bye.